Let me start with a simple but uncomfortable question. What if a drug product that looks perfect on paper, chemically stable, fully validated, and regulator approved, still ends up failing? In many recent cases, the answer wasn't the API or the excipients. It was something we often overlook: the packaging. Nitrosamine investigations have taught the industry a hard lesson. Packaging materials can quietly contribute to impurity formation, sometimes long after the product leaves the manufacturing site. Today, we'll explore how blister films, elastomers, and containers interact with drug products and influence impurity formation over time. For decades, packaging was viewed as passive. Its job was simply to protect the product. But that mindset no longer holds. Modern drug products are more sensitive, more complex, and stored for longer periods. At the same time, packaging materials themselves have become more complex. We now know that packaging contains extractables and leachables, can introduce nitrosating agents, and can even create microenvironments that promote chemical reactions. Nitrosamines have forced us to rethink packaging, not as a shield, but as a potential risk contributor to product quality. Before going further, let's briefly refresh how nitrosamines form. 3 elements are needed. First, a secondary or tertiary amine, which may already exist in some APIs or excipients. Second, a nitrosating agent, such as nitrites or nitrogen oxides. And third, favourable conditions: moisture, heat, or simply time. Here's the key insight. Even if your formulation doesn't contain nitrosating agents, packaging materials can supply them. That's why products with no obvious nitrosamine risk on paper have still failed during long-term stability studies. Let's start with blister films, especially PVC-based materials. These films may look inert, but they can contain residual catalysts, plasticizers, and trace nitrites from manufacturing streams. Under conditions like humidity or temperature stress, these components can slowly migrate into the drug product. If the API contains amine groups, nitrosamine formation can occur gradually during storage, not during manufacturing. This explains a pattern many companies have seen: nitrosamines appearing late in stability, even when early data looked perfectly clean. Now let's talk about elastomers, stoppers, seals, and gaskets. These components are chemically complex and often overlooked because they're small. Elastomers may contain vulcanization accelerators, antioxidants, or historical byproducts that can act as nitrosamine precursors or nitrosating agents. This risk is especially critical for injectables, nasal sprays, and inhalation products, where contact with the formulation is intimate and continuous. Even with modern controls, elastomers can still leach nitrosating species into liquid or semi-solid formulations over time. Glass and plastic containers are often assumed to be inert, but that assumption has proven dangerous. Glass containers can adsorb nitrogen oxides from the environment and later release them into the product. They can also interact with formulations through surface chemistry. HDPE and other polymers may release additives or degradation products and allow oxygen permeation, indirectly supporting nitrization pathways. The key takeaway is simple: the myth of inertness has cost us dearly. Even well-known container systems must be reassessed through a nitrosamine risk lens. Here's something that's often overlooked. Packaging doesn't just hold the product, it controls the microenvironment. Moisture can enter through blister films, pore seals, or elastomer interfaces. Once moisture is present, it mobilizes nitrites, increases molecular movement, and accelerates chemical reactions. This is why nitrosamine levels often rise during accelerated or long-term stability studies, even when initial results appear clean. Moisture is not just a physical issue, it's a chemical enabler. Here's something that's often overlooked. Packaging doesn't just hold the product, it controls the microenvironment. Moisture can enter through blister films, pore seals, or elastomer interfaces. Once moisture is present, it mobilizes nitrites, increases molecular movement, and accelerates chemical reactions. This is why nitrosamine levels often rise during accelerated or long-term stability studies, even when initial results appear clean. Moisture is not just a physical issue, it's a chemical enabler. So how do we actually control this risk? Effective strategies include selecting low nitrite packaging grades, using nitrosamine-free elastomers, and strengthening extractables and leachables studies. Equally important is adding packaging-focused stress studies early in development. And perhaps the most critical lesson, don't wait for stability failures. Packaging risks must be evaluated up front, alongside formulation risks. Let's end with the most important takeaway. Packaging is no longer just a container. It is part of the extended formulation system. Blister films, elastomers, and containers can quietly influence impurity formation months or even years after product release. If we want truly robust products, our quality thinking must extend beyond the API and excipients, all the way to the package that holds them. Thank you, and I hope this changes the way you look at packaging forever.